Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for our program on building partnerships with retailers and galleries. My name is Tiffany Coley. I am a working jewelry artist, and I'm also the Artswell program coordinator with Triangle Artwork. So we really appreciate you joining us for this really important information for working artists and craftspeople. So I'll go ahead and allow the panelists. We have three lovely panelists joining us today, and I'll allow them each to introduce themselves. I'll go ahead and start with Ceci.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting me be a participant on this panel. My name is Cecilia Enaine de Davis. I'm the owner of Ceci's Gallery and Studio, and recently I have addition to have another space for Ceci's 2.0. We've been in the business for 6 years, started in the market, at the craft market. Then I started it, and then after that, I went to Vega Metals, and after that, I'm just here on my own place.
Mhm,
So that can happen.
mhm. Great. Thank you for being here, Ceci.
Absolutely.
Um, Cynthia Mollenkoff.
Hi, everyone. Cynthia Mollenkoff. I own Cocoon Gallery in downtown Apex. I represent over 70, it's close to 80 artists, all North Carolinians, and all focusing on functional artwork. And my background is as a textile artist also, so I've been on both sides of the table in terms of getting into galleries, being in a cooperative gallery, and then owning my own. So I know what you're going through, and I know what the other side's going through.
Perfect. Thank you. Janice.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Janice Triber, and I serve at the North Carolina Museum of Art. I'm director of two departments. The first is visitor experience, which is tasked with welcoming everybody on our campuses. And the second is our retail spaces. We have multiple locations throughout our campus, as well as our extension in Winston-Salem now, formerly Sika. And specifically in retail, we as well focus on North Carolinian artists. For the last 5 years, we've on the team that's led an initiative to switch over from more mainstream products to being 85% local North Carolinian artists. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for being here. So I just want to let our guests and everyone know that we have a few questions that we've moderated. Some of them were sent in by you guys, the registrants that are here today, and then some other ones we will you will be allowed to or have an opportunity to ask any questions in the chat. And as time permits, towards the end of the initial discussion, we will go ahead and answer those questions as we can. So let you guys know about that. So if you have a question at any time that you think of as we're going through, feel free to go ahead and put that in the chat at any time, and then we'll get to it at the end. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the first question that I have is, what is the one thing you wish artists would do before they approach your gallery or shop? And so I see Janice here on my screen. I'll go ahead and start with Janice with that question.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are here to support artists at any stage in their career, but if we're gonna develop any sort of collaboration or partnership, it'd be great that we learn a little about each other, learn about our campus, maybe visit the store first. We have an online form that you can fill out. So if you're directed to do so, it's really wonderful as the artist if you take that route versus, for example, dropping in to try to find me, which is close to impossible. And going down those avenues so we can learn a little more about each other and if this is a good fit for both of us. We really want that relationship to work on both ends. So I think starting that way is just a really good approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cynthia, do you have more to add to that?
Yeah, I'd say no matter what gallery you're looking at, do your research, and that can be online, it can be their social media, it can be coming in the store, it can be looking at the other stores, galleries, facilities nearby and saying, am I a better fit in that one, or am I a better fit in that one? Or does the next store next door have exactly what I'm offering? And is this a bad place for me to even be considering before you, move any further? Do your
Yeah.
research. Is it 2D? Is it 3D? Is it functional? Is it oils only and sculptures? Is it, so really know who it is you're looking at before you move any further than that.
Great. Yeah. I think that's a very important thing. You both mentioned stopping by and looking. Like if you have an opportunity to, if it's local, to visit the location that you're interested in, to stop by and take a look at the work there and make your presence known in a way that you're not saying, "Hey, look at my work," but showing your interest in that location and showing your interest in the work that's there to see if you're a good fit as well. Cece, do you have any more to add to that?
Yes, I think it's also important for them to come to go to the places so they can see the vibe. If it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you feel that your art will do good and that you can, it can be also blend with the themes or blend with the kind of work that other people's other artists do. I think it's really important for them also to feel like, yeah, I can see myself in here.
Yeah.
I can see that I can definitely do well in here. So I think it's also important just adding to other ones what they were saying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we talked a little bit about, and I know Janice talked a little bit about an online form that the museum has for artists that are interested. But for Ceci and for Cynthia, how do you prefer artists to kind of introduce themselves or submit their work for consideration? Do you have a method or do a preferred method or a best practice that you'd like
Yeah,
to share?
yeah, sure. I have an application form on the website.
Okay.
Um, and, for this is a business transaction. This
Mm-hmm.
is applying to a job. It's IBM Gallery, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't walk into IBM with your resume in your hand and go, "Hey, anybody want to hire me?" So you really want to take that step first and see, do they have an application form? If you can't find it, all right, then it's fair for you to contact them in some way. But if you choose to go into the gallery, again, look around. Is this the right place for me? Number one. And number two, assume that the person behind the desk is the owner.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they're not, it could be, it could be anybody, but assume they're the owner and that they don't really have time to have a long conversation with you about your art. Um, but you say to them, "I'm interested in applying. What's the procedure?" Now,
Mm-hmm.
I might be in a really good mood that day and have nothing else to do and want to chat with you about it, but assume I don't. And then you go through whatever the procedure was. But for me, it's yes, there's an application online. And then if I choose to pursue it, then I actually meet with that artist in their studio space.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, I need to make sure that the artist is actually doing the work. Because for some
Mm-hmm.
artists in the craft area, they are designing and then they're sending it to some other country, having it made and bringing it back.
Mm.
And I'm not interested in that. So I do take that
Sure.
next step.
Yeah. Okay. Cece?
So for me, I'd rather because I'm solo in the
Mm-hmm.
gallery, it's one women band. I do prefer the email. Would I
Mm-hmm.
ask them to email me uh, with the introduction, of course, a little bit about themselves, and also pictures of their work.
Mm-hmm.
And so and then if they do different crafts or different medias, I want them to show me what kind of different medias they do. And then we decide whether is a good fit for Ceci or not. And if
Mm-hmm.
not, I always because I do the art market as well, I also offer them to get into the art market to see if their work will what also other people um, think about their work as well. So I have an options as well. If they don't
Mm-hmm.
come to the gallery, they also it's a marketplace as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then from
Great.
there on, we'll build the relationship. I want them to come and meet with them, and then tell them if we decide to keep him, They come and meet with me one-on-one, and then we discuss all the rules, everything that it has to be expected from them, what I expect from them, and what they expect from me. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a building relationship, and so from that point, it goes on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And without having looked at your applications, is it something that you do specific times of year that you accept or look at new artists, or is it kind of a rolling basis that you look at them whenever as the applications are submitted?
So for me, because I don't have a large, well, I do have a large space, but
Mm-hmm.
what I do is every 3 months, I switch artist.
Okay.
Just because I have a lot of petitions, a lot of people ask me, but I also wanted to be able to refresh the market.
Mm-hmm.
We on Saturdays by far is our best day, and
Mm-hmm.
people from the farmers market come in, and is on Saturdays a really great event here in downtown Durham, and so a lot of people are taking the opportunity to come and visit, and we do have a lot of customers that come again. I mean, they always come to the market, and they always turn around and look at us. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
repeat customers, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Janice and Cynthia, do you each have a particular time that you bring in new artists or
For me, it's year round.
year round? Okay.
Year round as things open up.
Okay.
I pretty much have as much space taken up as I want to, but every once in a while I find an artist that I need to find room for and I make room. And other
Sure.
times I've got the no pile and I've got the maybe pile if I can find room.
Sure.
Yeah.
Perfect. What about at the museum, Janice?
Yeah, we always have the application up. It's available to everybody. Always
Mm-hmm.
welcome to new ideas. We probably skew a little heavier when exhibitions are opening, and that's in the
Sure.
fall and the spring because we have an additional store during that time, and we try to connect the storytelling and the themes of the exhibition with the artists that are featured.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Perfect. When you talk about like new emerging artists, I know we talked about the application, but before they get to that point, if an artist thinks they're ready, what advice do you give them to an emerging artist that is thinking about, what type of collateral or stuff that do they need to have to be ready to even approach a gallery when they think they're ready?
I look for artists that have been in juried shows.
Mm-hmm.
So that at least I know someone else has looked at their work and thought it was worthy of being presented.
Sure.
And also, people that I've met, I've had customers even who I know their taste and they've said,
Mm-hmm.
"Ooh, have you heard of this artist?" So
Yeah.
if you can get in front of the general population, jurors in any form, um,
Mm-hmm.
go to events at the galleries you're interested in if they have openings and chat with the other artists, maybe, get to know them and what those particular galleries are looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I would,
Janice, or go
oops,
ahead,
no,
Ceci.
go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, Ceci.
So what I would say is, if I was be the artist, do I like my art?
Mm-hmm.
Do I like what I see? And if you're proud of it, if you are thinking, I mean, it gives you like that sense of, yes, I'm ready. Of course, art is so personal. It's so personal that you know, when somebody buys it, it needs to be something that I already have a place to put that work in my house. But
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's also what you do, what kind of message do you represent, you want to give to the public, to what you express in your art as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
it's you that you need to feel like, yes, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
My
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying like they need to also have confidence in their work as part of the thing to approach. They need to be confident in the work that they're producing, which I think is
Also,
so important. Yeah.
yes, also be prepared for to to have knowns, but you can
Yeah.
also have C's. Yes.
Yes. That's right. That's right. That's right. Um, so I know you all talked about, and then I know you mostly all deal with North Carolina artists. But we wanted to, have this as open as possible. Are there any things that you would think about, like how to approach someone that's not local? Like if they can't go visit their gallery or they can't go to their retail shop, do you think that it would be, would it be acceptable or best practice to email or contact on social media? Are those kind of the best practices to reach out to gallery spaces that aren't ones that you can physically, go visit easily?
For the museum, I think it's important because we are representing the state that the people we
Sure,
feature do come in. So that would be a little more difficult for me. But if it was
sure,
a situation where accessibility was an issue and we
yeah,
wanted to be more inclusive of what we're featuring, then yes, that would be one where I would welcome any type of contact via email or phone. I mean, there might be people with low vision or, anything else that may prohibit them from using an online form or physically getting here.
sure,
And sure, that door could still be open.
yeah, okay,
Well, I guess when you deal with the people from out of town, out of place, you
mm-hmm,
probably have to be prepared to ship. And then what is that going to cost you? That's something that you're going to have to take in consideration. But the actually meeting, it can also be as zooming. Have
mm-hmm,
built the relationship with the artists, with the gallery owner. So you can do Zoom meetings, you can discuss a lot of things, you can actually show your studio and to see if that will be something they can work out as far as
mm-hmm,
put on their work there.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Another option is to kind of tease them.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
if you start out with a postcard that says,
Yes,
here's my work, and
Mm.
it comes in the mail, which is very different. Instead of
Yeah.
everything
yes,
being by email, all
mm-hmm,
our businesses do still get mail. Have a
yes,
nice picture on the front with a little teaser on the back. I'm
mm-hmm,
doing a show at such and such gallery, or, here's my work. I'll be in touch soon. No
mm-hmm,
pressure kind of thing. And then just build on that with different ways of contacting them over time. And then say, I'd like to make an appointment via Zoom, or I am going to be in the area for a juried show that I've entered. Can come
mm-hmm,
see me at my booth.
mm-hmm.
That can all be, ways of getting in there.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I think that oftentimes we forget that regular mail still happens too, and there's ways you can use that in order to get your work in front of people. So I appreciate you saying that, Cynthia. Um, let's see. Let's talk about artist pricing because that's an important topic for artists when they're trying to get their work, whether it's consignment or wholesale. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But um, are there things that you wish more artists kind of understood about pricing their work for retail spaces?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on this.
Yes.
First of all, if you haven't taken the pricing class with Tiffany and Cynthia, do it because they know
Mm-hmm.
more about pricing than anybody. For me, you need to look at your price as the wholesale price. That is what you're going to live off of. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever that wholesale price is, that's your price. You can set your retail prices so that you have a consistency across whatever your range of locations is,
Mm-hmm.
um, but plan to live off that wholesale. And if you happen to sell something directly because somebody gave you a phone call and you sold it directly, great, that's bonus, but that's not what you are living off of.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you do need to decide, am I a wholesaler, am I a retailer? Yeah, and I'm going consignment. How
Mm-hmm.
what kind of relationships do I want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a touchy uh, subject for artists because some of them, they are really proud of their work, and they are thinking of different prices that sometimes otherwise gallery owners will think. And I agree with, I'm sorry, I forgot her name.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
that you have to think about the wholesale instead of the full sell price, because what I do here is I take percentage, and so I always say you have to feel comfortable taking home the percentage that I'm giving you, but
Mhm.
you have to put the price. And I don't want to put a price on their work because it's out of respect, and I want them
Mhm.
to feel comfortable with what we're taking home. Uh,
Mhm.
but also, I think they need to think about where they put in it,
Mhm.
what area are they putting it. So if they put it a big ticket item in small town, so and it's a high price, so
Mhm.
chances are not going to sell. Probably will sell, but it will take longer until the right person comes along.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then if you want something that you want to sell like practically or fast, then you can put a comfortable number for you to be taken home and still feel proud that somebody took your artwork.
Mhm. Mhm. Um,
I could add
Jan,
a little bit
yes, go
more if
ahead.
that's all right. So the other thing I would add is that if you want to reach a larger market, having a range of prices, rather than just your $2,000, $6,000, $20,000 paintings, wherever you're at,
Yes.
having generic prints, having limited edition prints, as well as your original, or if you're in ceramics, having your giant sculptures, but having mugs or something
Yeah.
small, that an entry level to your work,
Mhm.
so that
Mhm.
people can enter it and then they bring it home and they're like, oh, I'd like to have something bigger by that person,
Yeah.
better,
Right.
something to go with
Right.
it. So
Right.
That is absolutely wonderful idea, because that's what I always tell my artists. If the people cannot buy the original, at least have a printer, a poster they can take with them and then still feel good about it. I mean, they don't, they won't be able to pay the big price, but still have something of your work as well.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's one thing that I learned when I was doing jewelry. When I'm doing jewelry, jewelry is so broad, so like extensively uh, big, and a lot of people don't buy a big expensive pieces, but they feel they will also like the small things. So you always have to have small things, big things, and media things. They and prices as well, so people
Yes.
can also take some of them.
Yeah, that's important. Beth, someone had a question we wanted to go
Yeah,
back to.
we
Yeah.
had a couple questions in the chat and they have to do with applying, so I thought I would jump in.
Mhm.
And
Sure.
the first was, Annabelle said, can an artist expect to hear back after applying? Either a yes or no, maybe from the venue. It's difficult to send an application and never hear anything. And so, what is y'all's, usual practice in that?
Mhm.
Yeah, we at the museum, we do feel responsibility to always respond, because giving feedback is part of growing and nurturing artists at any stage. And what might not fit right now truly might 2 years from now. So yes, feedback should be expected.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'll say most of the time I reply in some way or another. I give them doesn't go with the gallery, or I'm not looking for this at this time, or I'm keeping you on file, or one of those, unless it's something that is so nowhere near what I would be offering ever,
Mhm.
that I'm like, you didn't do your homework, so I'm not going to spend any more time on this. So I do every once in a
Right.
while get kind of a little snarky and just
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes I do feel like we need to respond. Definitely, they should be able to have some sort of reply from me. Um, what I also do is to keep a list of vendors, the artists who apply, and then what I do is seasonal. So I'm not going to take somebody who does flowers during the summer, during the fall or winter. I usually ask for, like, when you do seasonal work, I think usually that's when it sells for me the most. Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, flowers, summer stuff, happiness, and stuff like that. And then on the fall, trees falling, like leaves and stuff like that. So that's when I do a little bit of category for those people, for those artists. And so, and I do my list, and then when it comes to it, then I can send them email and say, are you still interested, to be able to participate with us? And then just say yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll just add on that just for me, I had somebody approach me in January about some work and I wasn't interested in most of their work, but they had some holiday items. And it was a perfect time in January to see that because the holidays were fresh in my mind.
Mm.
What was I missing
Right.
over the holidays that I wish I had had? So I said, I'm interested in your work for the holidays. Contact me in September.
Mm-hmm.
And I leave it in her shoes to get back to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it was a nice time to see that because I knew what I was missing and
Right.
interested. So that can help in certain situations.
And
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback on that, Cynthia. So say a person didn't hear back, um, and they're interested in getting feedback, or they would like to circle back to that gallery that was, they didn't hear anything, or they heard a maybe. Is it okay to reach back out at a certain point and follow up with that gallerist or shop owner? And say, hey, I know we didn't connect at that particular time but here's some of my new work, and here's whatever, the conversation would be. Is that acceptable to do that?
I think it would be great if somebody, especially if somebody's doing something new.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an update that says, ooh, they're less like what I would want, or they're more like what I would want. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I did have one artist that just decided to come in every week to check. And at one point I just had to tell her to stop because I was not ready for her work. And when I was ready, I would let her know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, so what do you think now? And it's like, it was,
Mm-hmm.
and again, like I said before, you have to assume that the owner or somebody that's working on something other than artists coming in is at the desk. They're working to help their customers. They're paying their artists. They could be sitting at that desk paying the other artists. So, yes, contact them again, reinforce your interest in the gallery. Since, especially if it was a maybe, that would be more than appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, another
Mhm.
question that I want to go back to your question before about what people should have prepared. And someone else asked this too, and Cynthia and I
Okay.
were wondering, want to go back to the question of, what, if if you're filling out the form or approaching a gallery, what what are best practices about what do you need to have prepared? What do you need to have to show, and in what form? Because I think you asked that question, but I don't think we got to that answer, that part of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what you feel proud of. What are the things that you feel proud the most? That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that you're going to be able to represent yourself, and you will be confident of your work. If that's is that answer the question?
I think the question too is sort of what format. I mean, do you need to have it
Oh,
like what makes it simple? What makes it easy for you to review? Is there a specific format? Is there a specific I don't know,
for me,
paper, writings?
For me, it's more like pictures. You know, I have to see the pictures. I have to see, and then you can just send it as an email and as an attachment. I don't have any sophisticated system that I can just say, yeah, do this form, that form. Also, you know, you can send the profile, like you can send your website, you can send your Instagram pictures, you can send a link to someplace where I can see more than just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That also helps for me.
Mm-hmm.
And also making sure that you're real.
Right.
Right, right.
For me,
Yeah,
in the application, it asks questions like, where do you get your inspiration? Do
yeah.
you do any other forms of artwork? Because that can inform what they do.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to know.
Mm-hmm.
Links to social media and website, or they can just attach pictures. But the reality is I am going to come to their studio and see their work in person at some
Mm-hmm.
point if I'm interested in what I see. But at first, I just want a general overall picture. So the pictures, if they are sending just, individual pictures, of things, then it needs to be a good representation of how what they do, the level of perfection of what they do, as well as how it would fit into my format in the gallery. So,
Mm-hmm.
don't send me a watercolor because it's a really beautiful watercolor when I'm looking for ceramics. So obviously that it's an extreme, but pay attention to what it is that I would want to see, as well as what do you feel is your best work that you want to share.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would
Janice.
say, thanks, Tiffany.
Yes.
I would say, down at its core, this is marketing, and marketing is storytelling, and you need to present your story in a full and engaging way that my team and I can share with visitors, because that's what sells. It's the story that sells, not necessarily a product, it's the process. And specifically with the form, when you do submit it, if you're JPEG, whatever high quality, high resolution photos you can do the best. Share your social media, because we definitely look at that, and anything that enhances your entire process and story.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I just want to add, just as and I think most artists, but I'll just say this, like, you should always have the basics. Like, you need to have your artist bio, um, quality images, that kind of stuff, because even if you're not applying to a shop, if you're applying to any exhibition space, you need to have that information at the ready at any given time, and update your images as you go. So I think and I'm sure those are things that are on the application, so as well. Um, we had one question. I am seeing some of the questions. I just wanted to go back to the application since we're talking about that. Someone was asking about references. I know Cynthia's application speaks to that, and the question was, do those references need to be like other gallery owners, other artists? Like, what's the expectation of what references should be for an artist?
For me, if there's galleries, that's great. If it's,
Mm-hmm.
somebody you've worked with in the art field in any way that can just talk to your professionalism. So
Yes.
let's say this is the first gallery you're ever applying to, so you don't have a gallery reference, but you
Right.
sold several of your pieces to your best friend down the street. Well, I don't need to know it's your best friend. You can just say, Joan has several of my pieces, or
Right.
or you've worked on a committee that's in the arts in some way. So
Mm-hmm.
sharing, so it can be either way, whatever you have that best represents who you are.
Okay. Perfect. Um, so one of the other questions that we wanted to talk about is that social media. You kind of touched on that a little bit in terms of, I know that most of you will look at their social media, or or ask for that, or ask to share that. So should they curate it in a special way to appeal to clients or retailers? um, how do you use that information? I know it's kind of a part of the whole package of the artist, but how do you see yourself using that social media presence in a way to possibly make a decision about the artist's work or their fit in your gallery?
To be honest, that is one of the best way for me to visualize
Mm-hmm.
what kind of work I would like and I can see here. And I
Mm-hmm.
do have reached out to a couple artists from the social media because I'm impressed
Mm-hmm.
by the work. And so they did the work, but it just happened that, there is some, it was so attractive that I have to reach out to them
Mm-hmm.
without the work represents everything that I wanted and that
Mm-hmm.
I think that it will fit really good for sissies. So definitely they did the work,
Mm-hmm.
and that's usually how good things happen, just, you know, you hoping that somebody is going to see your work and we're going to reach out to you. And then from then take over, take off, and the world of art. It can happen or cannot. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
do the work. But to me, it is definitely something that it speaks um, really loud
Mm-hmm.
on their work.
For me, it can show change over time. How
Mm-hmm.
has the artist progressed over time in
Yep.
terms of what they're producing? It can also
Mm-hmm.
show, did they post when they delivered their work to such and such gallery and say, hey, look what just got delivered, or I'm at this show. Here's the show. Here's the tag for the show, and that kind of thing. It can show demonstrations of their process. So there's so many opportunities to get to know the artist more by what they choose to post. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I say content dynamic as possible, not still photos, videos, stories. Stories are just wonderful. Things that show community involvement and activism are something we really enjoy at the museum, just because that's part of our mission as well. So it's going to be different for the three of us on this panel. But we also don't have a dedicated marketing social media team for retail. We have one department that serves the entire museum. So
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, as jewelry, I can't go on my own and post or share in social media as often as she may like. So it's wise that I'm upfront with her, and the more that she uses her own social
Right.
media and tags us, well, then it's collaborative. But that's something I can't provide to the artists, and we tried to explain that. But absolutely, we see the most success. I saw someone ask what type of social media. We see the best with Instagram stories.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. So we're going to assume at this point that say an artist has built this relationship, you've accepted their work into your gallery. What are some of the things you think aid in building a strong, long-lasting experience? Like, what are your expectations of the artist in terms of communication, in terms of you talked about them doing their own promotion of their work in your gallery or in your shop, etc. So, what are the things that you would say aid in building and continuing that relationship once you've actually, been able to get your work into that gallery or retail space?
So I will say that dedication,
Mm-hmm.
and also I think it constantly checking on what's what's been selling. If you need
Mm-hmm.
anything, what else can I do? What are
Mm-hmm.
the things that you think that you can that I can provide for you? Of course, social media is incredibly out there. Um, I would have to say I have two of the artists that are been here since day one. Until this
Mm-hmm.
point, they're still here. They sell crazy, and those are the ones that I'm gonna keep.
Right. Sure.
Because they constantly they reinvent themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They do They do things differently. They paint, but they also do ceramics. So they do all kinds of, and also I would have to say because they do Durham things. So Durham things are
Sure.
one of the things that, if you're in the area, you know, students coming and students going, people coming and go, and they always trying to take something that reminds them where they were at in some point in their life. If there's a picture, is a magnet, is something, it's a it's a it's a moment that they always capture in their lives, and they say, oh, I was having a good time there, this is what happened. So it's also, that is also something else that you want to think about when you're an artist. You want to sell a moment. When you see a passage that you have been, that there's somebody else has been there, that, like, I don't know, you get married in that place, and or somebody else has got married in that place. Do that passage, do that the scene, and I'm sure somebody else already been there, and so is a memory, is something that people will capture that, and then they think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So I agree with everything Cece said. I have some more practical rather than just generic, general, like,
Sure.
communication is important, cooperation is important, that's all. But, specifics.
Yeah.
I feel like you as artists have responsibilities, but the gallery also has responsibilities to you. So, reading your contract, whatever the contract is that you have with the gallery, and knowing what you're responsible for and what they are responsible for. And the gallery should be able to tell you what work is in the gallery. Now, I have thousands of pieces because of the type of work that's carried there. So maybe the blue leaf mug sold, not the green one, because I hit the wrong button. So the current audit might be off by which color of that item, but, and I say that unaudited versus audited, but I can send them a list of their work tomorrow that tells them, oh, here's what you're short on, here's what you need. Knowing, sharing ideas with the gallery, and the gallery should be sharing ideas with you on how you can cooperate. Maybe you can work with this other artist that's in the gallery and do some joint work. Knowing when the gallery is going to pay you, what day you should expect approximately a check from them, what day you should have gotten a list of what's sold, so that for me, it's by the 7th of the month, all my artists know what they sold the month before, and by the 15th, they've got a check in their hands. I try to do that every time, so that they are constantly getting an inventory update and know what they need to bring in, letting them know that, you're a little bit low on stock. And even though I've been sending you these notes each month, but hey, you're a little bit low on stock. So I want you to know, go ahead and bring stuff in. Giving the gallery notice that you're coming in, because if you come in on a Saturday, I can't help you bring your inventory in. There's no room to put it because I might be holding a class in the gallery at the time. There's no place for it. So giving notice, hey, is Monday okay for me to bring in new work? So again, open communication about details like that. Yeah. Also, if somebody comes to you and wants to buy something of yours, asking them, well, where'd you hear about? How'd you hear about me? And if you find out that it was the gallery and they saw that piece of work at the gallery last month, but you now took it home because you refreshed, you might want to consider that the gallery might, would like a referral fee, so to speak. I mean, I have that in my contract about certain things in certain situations, but the only reason that artist ever came to, or that customer ever came to, was because the gallery was selling your work. In some cases, I've had people come to my gallery because they saw the person's work on the person's website and it referred them to my gallery. Now that piece is no longer there, so they go and they buy it at, directly. I don't expect anything for that. They kind of, I was an interim in between, but so everything's, situational. But, an open relationship, appreciating what the gallery's doing for you by marketing your work every day of the year so that you don't have to.
Mhm.
well said.
Yes. Um, I have a question. It's more for, I guess, more for Janice as well. It's the relationship between artists and retail organizations, like more about supporting. You talked a little bit about supporting artists and supporting their journey and supporting them in that space, particularly across North Carolina. Can you speak a little bit to that about the support that galleries and those retail spaces give to artists and what you envision your part, the part you play in that?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I do think we're very unique and different in our perspectives and what we offer, the three of us
Hmm.
today.
Yeah.
But as the state's public free art museum, that's a huge thing that's owned by the people. And we try to we have our collection, but then we also have special exhibitions that we think are hitting on very important topics and very relevant themes in the state and beyond. And so we like to thread that into the retail. And if we have an exhibition focusing on the time is always now is here, and it's a collection of over 30 Black artists. And so this is a great opportunity for us to work with local artists that also are telling that story. And it gives a moment to maybe find some pause and help them a little more in their journey than we could always throughout the year. And so that's really important. And so I think making sure that we are connecting everything we do across our campus is unique to the museum. So I'll leave it there for me because I
Yeah,
feel, that's very close to our heart and our mission.
sure. Cynthia, do you have more to add about that relationship of, I know we talked about it being a business and it is, but in terms of like supporting artists in that way?
Yeah, that's why I try to keep an open line of communication so
Right.
I know what's going on with them. Do they just have
Right.
success? So, I have their bios that I can share with customers. I can say,
Mm-hmm.
this person just won, like I have some authors, books in the store, and she just got a, first place in some competition, and sharing that information with people as soon as they start looking at that person's work. I've
Mm-hmm.
also offered to some of the artists, some of my functional artists are also working in non-functional items. And so every once in a while they say, if
Mm-hmm.
you'd like to have a show here for a weekend of your non-functional stuff, we can do that, even though that's not the focus of the gallery, just to promote that you're doing. You want to come in and do a demo today? I've had events where I've joined an author who had a theme with artists that kind of match, and they did a demo and book signing kind of all at once. So finding ways to bring all the pieces together, kind of like Janice was talking about,
Yeah.
to create an event or create a special moment for them in the
Mm-hmm.
gallery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. I think we have taken most of the questions that we moderated ahead of time. And I know we have some additional questions in the chat.
You want me to?
Um,
Can
yeah,
I
we can go if you want to go ahead and pitch some of those, that would be great. I see
Yeah,
see
because,
them coming in, but
yeah,
can
some
I
of it
add?
was
I'm sorry.
partially answered. Oh, I'm sorry.
yes,
Can I add just one thing that I
sure.
completely forgot on the early questions?
Uh-huh.
I know there's some artists, and this I learned this from experience. Some of the artists that I asked them to bring their work in here is that they brought the work, but they say at the oh, this is not for sale. It's like
Huh,
so, and I say I'm sorry, but this is a business. We are
right.
here to sell. And if this is not for sale, if you just wanted to show it, I know that you are proud and love your piece, but this is as this is something that it's a business, not also it's a business for you and it's a business for me. So
Right.
often sometimes a couple times I did. So this piece is not gonna be able to make it unless you're gonna sell it.
Right.
So that's
And I,
a
I think, yeah, that's very important to note. Like if
yeah,
you an artist that are just is just looking for exhibition
yeah.
space versus building versus selling, then that's a whole different thing to look at. So that's
Right.
very important. So you definitely don't want to take work that's not for sale to a retail space and think you're going to take up real
Exactly.
estate and
Exactly.
from
Yeah. So I
someone
could
that
give the space to somebody else
exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
So and that takes you time and consuming to
Hmm.
give to somebody else.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
There is an opportunity there, though, that if, let's say this artist has a variety of other work, but they can't, there's no
Sure.
room in the gallery, whatever, there's nothing wrong with having a little portfolio, maybe a small pamphlet or something that, for
Yeah.
me, I would put in there in what I call the bio box with information like care instructions, things like that. And so if somebody says, oh, I'd love to see this person's other work, I can pull out the pamphlet and say, here's some of the other stuff they do. And then, that gives it another opportunity to be more, have more information about the artist, share more of their story, and also potentially get that artist a sale that you would, that as a gallery, I would get a little referral fee for, but gets them a sale they wouldn't have been able to get through my gallery.
yep,
Absolutely. And that's still another way of supporting artists in a
right,
way that
right.
is not absolutely. Yeah.
So Tiffany, one of the there was a general question asked originally about sort of
Hmm.
what when you look at the applications, or especially when someone approaches you, when we've talked a little bit about this, but specifically, what are y'all looking at when you're evaluating whether sort of an artist is ready to I guess be sold in your space? Are you looking at artist statements? Are you looking at their website? Are you looking at, and I think Cynthia, you said, have you been been on juried shows and things like that? But some of the specific questions that were asked does it matter if you have a MFA, BFA versus being self-taught? Does it matter whether you have a website or you're just on social media? And there was a follow-up question about social media, but sort of what what are the main points that you're going to be looking at when you're evaluating whether someone is ready to sell?
Cynthia,
For
you
me,
want?
I'd say it's the quality of the work. I typically don't take artists that, are emerging, just have just started whatever their medium is.
Hmm.
My preference is a good 10 years in the medium so that they've figured out all the mistakes.
Hmm.
They figured out that, if they don't test their mug to make sure it's watertight and, it's not going to leak in my stream, that it is what they say it is. So that's my first priority, good quality, they, tested, successful work. Education wise, I'm not looking for MFA or any of that. I think it's fine if you're self-taught, but typically what I find is the best combination is somebody that's self-taught up to a point and realizes that they don't know what they don't know. And then they go and seek that education so that they can find out, am I really doing this to the, most efficiently? Is my quality what I think it is? All those, so they've sought out expertise, and then so maybe they continue to be self-taught after that with YouTube videos or whatever, however it is that they've.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't need the degrees to say that they of a quality that I would want.
Hmm.
Definitely. I'm the same way. I my thing is, if I like it, somebody else's will like it too.
Hmm.
The quality of the work definitely is always what you're looking for. Experience, not so much for me, because I'm in a different area, in a different, I have a really soft spot for young entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
because they either going to be able to be successful, or they're going to
Hmm.
have to think about, what am I doing with my life? So this is, and then it's going to be up to them whether they want to upgrade, they want to see what's out there for them or not. So for me is, so I carry 60 artists in the gallery, 65 artists in a gallery, from jewelry, clothing, artwork, prints, everything, technology, and all that. So, what I always tell them is that I'm not going to be the judge. The public is going to be the judge. So as much as you selling, and then whatever you selling the most, that's what people gear towards that. And 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 maybe that will be one thing, but you also need to see what else is out there. Don't get stuck in one thing. Just always make yourself um, move forward. What's the next thing? So I also put myself in that situations like, okay, jewelry, everybody makes jewelry, everybody's doing jewelry, but what are the things that I can do different from what everybody else is doing? That was always my thing. And I think there's always something that we need to think about. What's out there? What what can I invent myself that can be different from everybody else that they do photography, oil painting, anything, any other media. So I think that's what's going to keep us interested and is going to keep us going all the time. I think.
Okay, great.
Janice,
Thank you. Yes. Did you have more questions? Were there more questions in the, I'm looking at there to see
yeah,
if,
there's some more at the bottom if you want to read those, or I'm glad to.
okay, let me see.
There's one about photography. Any advice on photographing 3D work? Do you prefer to see staged work by yourself or with a photography, which is a photography background?
Mm-hmm.
So I will say for me, photography is, it's a little difficult for me to sell it. I don't know why. But but
No, I think, I'm sorry, Ceci. I think the question was when they're photographing their work to submit, I
oh,
guess.
I see.
Yeah. So do you have any input if someone's trying to photograph 3D work, like to send the images to you? Is there a certain way you like those or prefer those
I mean,
to
as
be
long as you see
presented?
the quality, I think as long as you see the quality of the work,
Okay.
that you can see details, that you can see, what really is, and not
Mm-hmm.
to make it blurry or anything like that. I think it's the real capturing of what they do, because that's going to speak a lot on making the decision whether I'm gonna take you or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're, early on, it's costly to hire somebody to do the photography for you if you're not good at it. But it may be worth taking some of your best pieces and having that done. So at least you have something that's at the
Yeah.
high quality, and then finding a way to do the best you can with everything else.
Yes.
And build the
Yeah.
profile,
Yeah.
your portfolio.
Yeah.
And
I
I would
think I
suggest networking within your community, either your studio or whatever it is, and maybe finding a photographer that will work with you and provide that. Don't
mm-hmm.
always think of it as something you have to purchase dollar-wise. There might be some way that you can really fulfill that and assist them with something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
True that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that depending on what you're photographing, there's a whole other like art behind that of making a good photograph. And so if you don't want to go down that path of being able to buy the equipment and all of that stuff and know all the skill set, and you really need those good images, it's one of those things that I always say, if you can outsource it, try to outsource it so that gives you more time to spend on your work, even if it's just, as Cynthia said, those core 3 or 4 pieces that you're using to submit for galleries or for shops, to get your work in, to get started. So let's see. There's another question here. Do you recommend only submitting when you have a cohesive series of pieces? So for instance, if you have acrylic and oil on canvas, is there a minimum number of pieces you would recommend having ready if you're going to approach somewhere to sell?
Yeah, I would definitely say, as far as storytelling, you want to have a minimum of 3, a maximum of 5, and then within each of those pieces, which could be different sizes, they could be different themes. You have maybe up to 5 deep in inventory. So that way it does give, if something sells, we can pull something back out. I will say the only exclusion to that is if you want to feature within your story one large, more expensive original. We'd love to do that. We don't sell it in high volume, but it is part of the whole narrative. So that would be okay to have one of.
I will add, if you're gonna send some pictures, send the ones that you are currently have, not the ones that has been sold, because that's another another thing that I learned. That is like, oh, I don't have that anymore. It's like, well, I mean, I think it would be nice to have what to know what you have, so I can make the decision as well on that.
I was also going to suggest another option is a lot of the local, your local towns do shows in their town facilities. And a lot of the people that work for the towns can help you pare down your collection, your bigger collection of work into a small collection of that, is showable for their show, but also kind of helps you figure out what is my look that I could then sell elsewhere to do other exhibitions. So use those people to help you figure out things. A lot of them are very, very happy to help you work through those things as you do a show for them. They'll help you do it, prepare for other shows that you might apply to.
Okay, I think we're nearing the end of the session. There's another question, and I think we answered that earlier about having prints or G-clay prints versus original art. I think that those are so, I think that that's okay to have to sell, right? In order to have diversity in your work and different price points depending on where you're selling.
Yes,
Um,
I completely agree. And that's what I always told my artists. If you want to sell the original, but the original is a little bit pricey, or not into, into the prices somebody
mhm,
like in the community, doesn't have, like college student would like to have your piece, but can't afford to have the original. It will be She will be content as well to have a print.
mhm,
It can be at different sizes, always have a small, medium, and large. So, and
mhm.
though actually with the prints you have a good margin of um, profit, definitely, with us. So it's another point of sale for us as well. They don't get the original, but they get the print.
I don't sell prints in the gallery, but I have been in galleries that do. And I do
Mhm.
highly recommend that you have different levels. So you have your,
Right.
general prints of everything that your not maybe not your best of your work, and then for that best work you have a limited edition, and you decide the price of the print is going to be 1/10 of the original, and after you've
Mhm.
sold 10 of them, you've
You already
basically
have the
sold
original.
your original. And now if you actually do sell
Right.
your original, hey, bonus. And then any additional, let's say you make 100, the limited edition's 100 prints or 50 prints or whatever it is, and
Mhm.
signed, that's extra special. But then you have some prints that are less expensive, that are maybe not in the best of all the mats. And so you have
Yeah.
different ranges that you can offer. I think prints are a great way to get in the door with a lot of people.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
I think that's all the time we have for questions. I don't want to hold up people too much past they've already given us their lunch hour. We will go ahead. I think we've answered most of the questions here. I just wanted to thank you all for joining us, and our executive director, Beth, would like to just give a quick talk, quick
Not a
message,
talk, but
a
when you
quick
I
message.
rarely get to be on these programs, and here I am,
Yes.
executive director, always has to remind everybody, that we are a very tiny little nonprofit that works very hard to get these type of programs, either free or for a reasonable cost to all of you. And so it's the end of our fiscal year, and we would love to end the year strong. So please consider, I mean, this is a free program, so please consider making a donation to support our work for this year and for next year. And welcome, and thanks everybody for being here.
Can I just say something else? I really appreciate. I know that for those people who's watching, I think this is a great panel because you have all differences of style,
Yeah.
interest in the community. So for those artists out there, don't give up. Just do your best and keep trying because art is expression. Art is happiness. Art is wellness as well that you can live off of. But don't give up. Just do your best. And thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you all so much. I just wanted to remind everyone that we will send out a brief survey as well for the program, and it's like 3 minutes if you could take the time to do that. And we will also provide a recording of the session on our Artswell TV YouTube channel, so you can look for that, and we will send out an email to inform you of all of that once it's available. So we really appreciate your time again, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.